stream for you guys, and we should be all set to go. All right, so let's start off, guys. As always, we start off with looking at the overall markets and how the markets moved, and also kind of get to an idea of how we're setting up for next week. So I like to always look at Qs and tech because I mainly trade tech stocks. So this is QQQ, which is the tech index. And you could see we obviously had a pretty strong week last week, coming off of this kind of big move on Friday. We pulled in a little bit into Tuesday, but then right off the ADMA, we kind of popped back up and had a 2% week up into closing into the highs on Friday. So with that being said, it looks like we are setting up for continuation higher on tech, in my opinion. You could see since we've made this really strong move right here, we have been able to hold the ADMA the whole way through, right? So as long as we continue to hold the ADMA, I'm expecting for us to continue to move higher. So that's going to be the area to watch for the whole week. As long as 8-day holds, we should continue to use that as a move to the upside. So watch for the ADMA to bring up new buyers. And we also want to watch this 530.5 level. So if you guys remember on Friday, whoever's in the premium, I was telling you guys 530.5 is going to be the big spot to close above. We literally closed like 3 cents above. The reason why that spot is so important is because you could see that's the previous high right here where we broke out above on the smaller time frames. And then throughout the day, we kind of came back below that spot, filled a gap, and then kind of came back up here to close a little bit above. So we need to hold above this spot because, again, the strongest markets, they move within these waves that continue to hold the previous high. So what I mean by that is you'll have a breakout above the high. The stock will retest the previous high and then move higher. So you can see we actually did that almost perfectly here on Thursday. So you're looking for those type of moves in the market. That tells you that that is the strongest type of market, right? Whenever you see the market's holding the previous highs. So right here, for example, we broke the high and then price hasn't even come down to the spot yet, right? So as long as we hold above the breakout spots, these are going to be the strongest markets. And this is why I have so much confidence and conviction in the market. So a lot of people always ask me, how do I know when to be full size? Look at the moving averages. If the stocks are above all the moving averages like we are here, especially on SPY and QQQ, that's when you want to be the biggest size, right? Once you get a little bit farther away from the ADMA, you want to be a little bit careful. But once you have a nice setup into the moving averages and then you get this next leg up, that's when you want to be sized up. Whenever we're below the moving averages, like we are, for example, like right here or right here, that's when you want to reduce your size and your risk. So take advantage of the market when it's super hot, right? Right now, we're in a pretty historic bull run. And a lot of people are already thinking ahead to like what's going to happen if we have a bear market, instead of thinking about how do I capitalize the most out of what's happening right now, right? You have to live in the present when it comes to the market. At the end of the day, no one knows what's going to happen, but as long as you play the trend, that's all that matters, right? Because the trend, nothing is stronger than the trend. The trend is always going to be on your side, and you're always going to be able to make money no matter what, depending on if you know what the trend is. And it's super simple. You just look at where the moving averages are. So clearly we are in an uptrend, so we continue to look to buy things to the upside, especially strong leading stocks coming out of big weekly bases. And that's why I keep mentioning those names. And I keep always telling you guys, those are the stocks you want to trade. So going on SPY here, we have this breakout that we saw early in September. You could see the S&P held right at the previous high, right? So again, these super strong moves will usually hold right at the previous high. Right here, we had a breakout, held right at the previous high. Right now, we're having a breakout right here. So what I'm looking for is for this to hold at like $600, right? That's going to be the spot we want to hold on S&P for us to set up for a continuation move higher. So something like that will usually happen. It'll set up for that continuation move. And then if we break out and get that move, that's where you're going to add size and get long on a lot of names. So that's what I'm watching on for the S&P. 600 is obviously a very big mental level as well. So it makes sense that that spot's going to be important for this week. So watch $600, guys. If we break under 600, look at the 50 EMA. We're probably going to pull back a little bit into that spot. If we hold 600 this week and the 21 EMA on the S&P, we'll probably set up some sort of continuation pattern for a next leg higher. The level you want to see break before getting a lot of size on things is 6009, right? Because that's the high right here that we saw. So if we can break out of this base, get over the previous high right here, we have a strong continuation move potential for this week. So watch that. Obviously, again, FOMC is coming up on Wednesday, so we're going to have a lot of volatile moves. So watch these two levels. I'll continue to let you guys know about them throughout the week. But to keep it super simple, 600 and 609 are going to be your two spots for the S&P this week. Over 609, we're bullish. Under 600, we want to be a little bit careful and potentially a little bit bearish down to the 50 EMA. You can see last time we tested the 50 EMA, we bounced really nicely. So if we are a little bit extended, that's going to be the next spot to find buyers potentially if we do a pullback. So keep in mind, right? We're just setting up to react depending on what the market gives us. There's no reason to predict what's going to happen. It's all about reacting and making money on these strong moves after the reactions happen. So don't be too eager to get in front of the moves. In the markets, everything needs to be within the trend of how the market's set up. That's the easiest and simplest way to trade. ARK is setting up really, really nicely. So if you guys remember on Thursday, Friday, I was saying this might look a little bit toppish with this candle right here. But we did set up really nicely with this hammer candle right off the 80 EMA. And again, the strongest stocks and the leaders in the market are going to hold the 8 EMA. And this is why I love this indicator so much. It's because it continues to bring up buyers. You can see every single time price tests the 8 EMA, boom, move to the upside, right? Test the 8 EMA, boom, move to the upside. Test the 8 EMA right here, should be another move to the upside, right? These are how the strongest stocks move. So if we know ARK is going to be strong and continue to hold the 8 EMA, look at the biggest holdings of ARK, right? Obviously, we know Tesla, Roku, we have Roblox, we have Square. So all those names could be really good here if we continue to move higher on ARK. I'll potentially be looking to add more to my ARK position. I do still have the ARK 60 calls for January, some runners on those, but I am looking at like 70 calls for maybe February or March. I'm still thinking ARK continues to move higher. This is what you want to watch on it, this little pennant that's forming here. If we can break out of this pennant, then we can get a nice continuation move up to $65 and then potentially $70 here in the next few weeks. So pay attention to ARK. I think going into next week, especially early week, if you guys remember, on FOMC days and especially like volatility weeks with like quad witching and a lot of data, usually growth stocks and small caps are the asset classes that move the best, right? That's just something we found over the last like year or two. These usually move the best, and especially stocks with really high short interest. So that would be anything over like 25-30%. If you guys remember like something like Lemonade, LMND, this crazy move that it put in here, it's kind of setting up again, right? And these, again, usually move the best when we have like FOMC coming up, quad witching, anything that brings volatility. We usually see these high short interest names really start to move nicely. So these are the type of stocks that I would be paying attention to. And that's why I'm really, really liking ARK for early next week. So pay attention to that. And then obviously Tesla has been super strong as well. So that will always help ARK out as well. So I'm watching ARK. The Dow is probably going to pull back to the 50 EMA. So kind of like what I was saying with SPY, it broke below the previous high. So you could see like SPY, for example, this is a previous high. It's holding the previous high so far. The Dow had this previous high right here, but it broke below, right? And this is what happens with a lot of stocks and also ETFs. If you fail to hold the previous high, you come back into range and then usually test the next moving average. So that's the 50 EMA. So the Dow is probably going to be a little bit weaker. Anything that's like healthcare, banks, industrials might be a little bit weaker with the Dow trading like this. So just keep in mind that those sectors are probably sectors you don't really want to pay much attention to. You want to trade the sectors that are leading the markets higher, the ones that are the most liquid. These are the ones you want to trade, right? Those are the ones that are the strongest. So just keep that in mind moving forward. IWM could potentially be ready for a bounce here, right? So the reason why I think the IWM is ready for a bounce and not Dow is because look at how extended the Dow is from the 50 versus IWM, right? IWM almost basically tested this already on Friday. And the IWM has basically like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red days in a row. So it looks like it's setting up for potentially a bounce. We also close with a little bit of a hammer here, not like a full hammer. Usually you like to see it close near the highs. But a little bit of a hammer look right here. We have a little bit of a wick left over from Friday. So IWM could be getting some flows, especially with, again, FOMC coming up. If we do get some sort of rate cuts or a plan for the rate cuts in 2025, that could be some optimism for small caps and growth stocks. So watch IWM this week. See if it sets up any sort of continuation look going into the week and what it does based on FOMC. So that's something that I'm definitely watching. Bitcoin, I always take a look at this just to see how it's moving for momentum. I kind of usually found that like Tesla, obviously we know Master and Coinbase move with Bitcoin, but a lot of these momentum stocks also kind of move with Bitcoin. So anything that's like ARK related, Bitcoin kind of gives us an idea of like the momentum in the markets, I would say. So we're getting a nice breakout here over the weekend so far. If this continues to move higher, I think a lot of the momentum stocks and risk on names are going to continue to move higher, especially the ones breaking out of big bases like Roblox, Square, Affirm, UPST, those type of names, Roku even. Those are the ones we want to pay attention to. So yeah, crypto stocks do look pretty good as well. I like Riot, obviously Master with the NASDAQ inclusion looks really good. Coinbase could even be pretty good. It's getting really tight on the daily time frame. So we have a few crypto stocks to potentially look at if we do get strength there in that sector. Just remember that sector is a little bit sketchy to trade, especially since a lot of those stocks don't really typically follow Bitcoin as much anymore. A lot of them do lag it a lot. So just keep that in mind. But if we do get big breakouts there, I wouldn't be hesitant for any trades. And then to look at specific sectors, there's a few sectors that I definitely want to focus on. So the first one is quantum computing names. We've seen them. We've seen a lot of really strong moves on some of these names. So SOUN here, you can see super strong. This is also a name that NVIDIA owns. This looks like it's going to break over $18. A huge base here, setting up for a huge weekly breakout. QUBT. This is one that I had that I was kind of watching last week. Not the strongest out of all of them, but you could see the wedge that it's setting up here on the daily time frame, right? So we have a nice looking wedge here. This one looks ready to pop. QBTS, right? We have that name as well. That one's super strong. That one's setting up for a continuation higher, looks to me. You could see basically the same type of setup that it had right here. Basically setting up again right off the 8 day. So you guys know this is my favorite continuation model and probably the most profitable one. Whenever you have a stock that sets up on lower volume into the ADMA and then gets volume again as it's breaking out, these are usually the best looking breakouts here. So just watch this one for a continuation higher. I'm watching a lot of these quantum stocks. IONQ is another one. This is like the original leader from quantum stocks. Had a nice day on Friday here. It needs to kind of come back up to like 38, but it does look good for continuation. So for me, QBTS is probably the strongest name out of this sector, but you definitely want to watch quantum computing stocks. Google could also be a nice watch as well. This one had a really nice move on Wednesday. A little bit of that quantum theme as well going on there from that move on last week. So pay attention to that sector. Another sector that I really like going into next week that not really many are talking about, I would say, payment processing stocks. So like fintech stocks, right? So Affirm, UPST were really strong on both Thursday and Friday. On Thursday, we obviously had a little bit of a failed breakout here on UPST with the markets being a little bit weaker. But on Friday, you could see super strong move. This moved almost like 15% at the highs and closed really strong. This is also the highest daily close it's had since all the way back here on this weekly breakdown, right? So it does look like UPST is setting up for a move higher, in my opinion. This is definitely one that I want to get into. So what I'd be watching for UPST, break over $85. Reason why, you could see we got a nice breakout here on the hourly, but then came back down under that 85 level. But you can see that's the area that we've been rejecting over the past few weeks, right? So if we can get over that spot, get back above 85, to me, that's going to be my entry for that. So set your alerts over 85.26 to be exact. That's going to be my entry for that. UPSC looks absolutely amazing. Affirm looks really good as well. This one's setting up for a big move over $73. You can see we have like a 14 to 20-day base, like about 2 to 3 weeks here of consolidation. Looks like if we get a nice break over 72.7, a big continuation move to like 75 and $80 could come here. So this is one of my favorite ones. I like the 75 calls for January or the 80 calls for January 17. Both of those look really good. PayPal looks really good as well. So you could see the theme that's going on here. These are really strong. Setting up right above the previous highs. It looks like it's looking really good here under this 91.18 level. We had an inside day, so it looks like it's setting up for higher. And then the last one that looks good out of this theme is SoFi. This one has a tight base as well. So while the rest of the market was kind of pulling back pretty hard, you could see a lot of these fintech stocks were just setting up really nicely under their previous highs. So no major pullbacks on this. And SoFi has about 3 weeks of consolidation already here. You can see the weekly time frame. We have about like 3 weeks of hammers and consolidation. On the daily, it might look ready to move higher here through this 16.5 spot. So I would watch those 3 stocks out of the fintech sector. That looks really good. A few more sectors that I'm paying attention to are, first of all, chip stocks, right? So we had AVGO earnings on last week. Huge reaction to that, and Marvel also popped higher here. And you can also see Marvel's breaking out of like a huge weekly base. So I would pay attention to some semi stocks. I'm not saying every single semi stocks because there's still a lot of semi names that are pretty garbage. So names like AMD, for example, I would completely avoid. Anything that's below the weekly moving averages, just avoid, right? So take a look at like AMAT below the weekly moving averages. Take a look at ARM above the weekly moving averages. So we want to focus on names like ARM. We want to focus on names like AVGO, and then we want to focus on Marvel. And MU does have earnings this week as well, so this is going to be pretty important for a lot of these chip stocks. But we do have a lot of really good setups in chip names. If you look at SMH, it does look pretty nice here. Very similar chart to like ARM, right? These both look very familiar to each other. And TSM looks really good as well. So we have like 5 chip stocks that I would definitely pay attention to. And there could be a theme of like NVIDIA kind of passing, NVIDIA and AMD maybe passing the torch a little bit to like AVGO, Marvel, and potentially like TSM, right? So we could see a lot of the money that was going into like NVIDIA and AMD over the last few months and like early 2024 going into a lot of these other like a little bit more lagging names like AVGO, ARM, and some other stocks. So check those out. I would definitely pay attention to those. A lot of those are definitely on my watch list. So that's going to be a theme I'm definitely paying attention to. And the reason why I'm always giving you guys themes at the beginning of the week is because, again, you want to pay attention to the sectors that are the strongest, right? This is where we make the most money. And this is why I'm so picky with the stocks that I choose. And I don't just take any random stock because I need it to be backed by some sort of sector that's super strong. And the reason why is because if the market's going to be strong and the market's going to be green, the sectors that are the strongest are the ones that are going to be benefiting the most from a green move. So just keep that in mind. We always want to trade the strongest sectors in the market. Those are going to be the ones that are going to give us the best returns. Another sector that I am paying attention to is the aero defense sector. So this would be like ASTS. This one still might not be fully ready yet. It might need to continue to base in this weekly time frame. But stocks like RKLB, this one looks really good. I also saw ACHR. This is one that looks very, very good. And this stock as well. Joby could potentially bounce here off the 21 EMA. So we have a few aero defense stocks that look really good. And then a few growth stocks that look really good as well. So I'm paying attention to stocks like Lemonade, stocks like Roku, already positioned in this one, but it looks really, really good. So there's a few sectors that we can pay attention to. Again, as the flows change throughout the week, you guys know I always update you guys with exactly what I'm watching. So you'll know what exact sectors to pay attention to. But if you want to learn how to do this yourself, very simply, right, just use this watch list that I have on TradingView. It's linked in the resources tab. All you have to do is just go through these stocks and then see which sectors are red, right? So for example, you can see FANG stocks were a little bit weaker on Friday, but then if you go down, you can see blockchain stocks were a little bit stronger. So these would be a nice focus for next week. Payment processing stocks were stronger. Solar stocks were stronger, right? So now you know which stocks are getting the flows. And this is super important. And you could do this throughout the day as well in the morning and then kind of see what sectors are going to be the strongest throughout the day. And this helps you really nail down which stocks you want to trade. Because if a stock you're trading is not in a sector that's getting a lot of flows, the breakouts are usually not going to be that strong on there. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, those are a few sectors I like: quantum computing, semiconductors, fintech stocks look really, really good. So keep that in mind. There's also some software names that look very, very strong. Now going into some stocks that I really, really like and that I think are setting up for a big move higher. So first one is Tesla. We are already in this, but if you took most of your profits on this, a lot of you are asking me where I would take a new position or where I would get a re-entry on. Very simple, right? So every single time a stock breaks a previous high, you're looking for the previous high to hold, and that's going to be your retest spot. So if we broke out above the all-time high at 414, your entry spot again is going to be back at 414. So that's going to be your re-entry spot. So if we get a retest of 414, I'm personally going to be looking to add more. But if you're not in, that's going to be your spot to look for potentially a move to the upside. A lot of people are saying Tesla's overextended. Look at the weekly chart, right? This stock is just now breaking out of the all-time highs, right? So how could it be extended, right? That is something that I always tell people. These stocks that are making new highs are the ones that you want to trade, because everyone thinks they're overextended, but then they continue to go higher, and that is why there's so much FOMO on stocks like this. Like everyone that missed this move on Tesla is now going to start having FOMO, and that's when you start to sell into the new highs. But when a stock's just now breaking out of the all-time highs, it still has so much more room to go. And if you use some Fibonacci's on this, you could see that we have some really big targets here, up into 493 and potentially even 600 as potential targets. So I don't think Tesla's going to be stopping anytime soon, especially if it stays above the previous high. So keep an eye on this one. If it comes down to 414, that's going to be a re-entry. If it doesn't come down, then you're just very simply looking for something like this, right? No stock goes straight up, right? A lot of the times a stock will make a big move to the upside like this, but then it will kind of go sideways. And then the next leg up is going to be right here. And to prove it to you guys, we caught all three of these moves, right? So if you guys remember, we caught Tesla pre-election. So right here, when it gapped up, we caught it right here on the second leg into the ADMA. And then we caught it right here on the second leg to the, on the third leg to the upside. So I'm not just saying this to say it. These are like principles that I personally use in my own trading to catch these type of moves. So if you're patient and you're able to catch these impulses, especially with options, these are the best times to get into the stock, right? Because if you get in here, you're going to get chopped out. If you get in when the stock is actually breaking out, that's when the biggest moves are going to happen. So Tesla could potentially continue to move higher. But super, super nice look on that one. As long as it stays over 417, in my opinion, it goes higher, but it could retest into that spot and then give you guys entry. Rivian's looking really good as well. So this is one that could definitely play some catch up, right? Obviously, Rivian is an EV company backed by Amazon as well. A lot of Rivian trucks got bought by Amazon. I think Rivian is going to make a really, really nice comeback here. If you look at the weekly time frame, it's back above the 50 EMA on the weekly time frame, and it's setting up to break out above this trend line right here as well. So you can see we had resistance, and then resistance now. It looks like we're setting up for a big move over that spot. If we can get over $15, I think $19 can come. So Rivian looks really good to me. I think it's starting to build out a nice bottom here. Again, bottoming on stocks takes a long, long time, but look at how many years this one has been sitting in this range here at the bottom, right? All the way since 2022. So you had almost 2 years of potential bottoming here and a very strong move off the lows with super strong volume patterns. So this is why I'm so bullish on Rivian. I look at the volume and then I kind of see the character start to change, right? So right here, you could see it had some pretty big volume as it was selling off, not too much volume as it was pushing higher. But now look at the difference, right? We have high volume as it's pushing up, lower volume as we pull in, high volume as we push up, lower volume as we pull in. Again, right here, high volume as we push up, and then lower volume, especially right here over the last week or so as we pulled in. So this one looks absolutely great for a continuation higher. Roku, this one is setting up beautifully as well. Already positioned myself in from Friday, but if you're not in, what you're looking for is a break over 84.15. That's going to confirm the breakout. So the reason why this one looks so good, all of you should already know, especially if you've been paying attention to my strategy and been following it for at least a week or two. It's got the exact continuation model that I look for. So you have the first initial breakout right here. That's on high volume, right? So you see the high volume pop. That is exactly what you want to see. After that, you want to see the stock pull back a little bit, but you want to see it a controlled pullback. How do you know if the stock is in a controlled pullback? You look at two things. You look at the volume. So you can see the volume is super, super low. If I was to see volume like this on the pullback, then that would be a no-go, right? But as long as the volume is at least half the volume that we saw on the initial kind of pop move. So you can see this is the volume that we saw right here. This is way less than half, right, of the volume on the pullback. That is obviously telling you that institutions are not selling out of this position. And that is what I personally look for. I look to see if institutions are accumulating. I look at the volume patterns to know if big money is buying and if they're selling. If they were selling, they would leave over prints in the market, right? So you could see, for example, right here, we have a big volume print that tells me they're buying. Right here, we have a big volume print that tells me they're buying, especially when the stock closes near the highs. That tells you that aggression is coming out of these, out of big money. So that is something that you want to pay attention to, right? And then look at the volume as it pulls in. That is going to be your indication that institutions are not selling. So once we have the low volume pullback, we want to look at the AEMA because that brings up buyers for the next leg up. So what we look for is a big volume pop, low volume consolidation. Decreasing volume is usually even better than just low volume. So if it goes this way, like I have my arrow here, if it goes down continuously, that's the best thing because that means volume dries up to the point that there's basically no action going on here between buyers and sellers, and they're just waiting for demand to be reintroduced into the stock. So just keep this in mind. This is the continuation model you're looking for, and then you want a tight wedge into the AEMA. If you can get that, that is the best continuation model in the market. Look at Rivian, for example, right? Doing the same exact thing. Big pop here on volume, low volume as it consolidates into the AEMA, tight pattern, right? This is the exact things we look for. Look at SOUN on Friday. This is a move that we caught. Low volume consolidation into the AEMA after a big volume move. And then again, huge volume as you break out again. So these are the things you're looking for. You could take it either as a front run trade before the breakout actually happens, or once the breakout does happen for like bigger confirmation as well. So that's why I like Roku. That's why I like Rivian. Those two look really, really good. Another name that looks really good, we talked about this a little bit, but Affirm, if it could break over $73, I think this one's going to $75 and $80. Looks really phenomenal. If you look at the weekly time frame on it, it's just now breaking out of a huge weekly base. So imagine how much upside this one has to go, potentially even all the way up until like $100. If you look at like Carvana, for example, I always like to use this example, but look at Carvana here with this first initial breakout that I had. And compare the two, right? It looks almost identical to the chart of Affirm with that big base. It has that kind of like inverse head and shoulders, cup and handle type of look. Just now breaking out here on the weekly. It's been consolidating really nicely. It has about like a three week consolidation, and the moving averages are starting to catch up now. It looks like it's ready to fly. So I'm setting my alerts over 72.8. That's going to be your trigger spot. Roblox just now breaking out on the weekly time frame. This one looks ready for a big push to the upside. And the reason why I like this one so much, again, is because it's breaking out of the weekly time frame. So if you get a big weekly time frame breakout, these are going to be the ones that are going to be the most explosive. These are the ones you want to trade. So going back to the daily time frame now, you could see how well this one has been trading. Once it broke out of the weekly base right here, right, we had super high volume. As it pulled in, low volume. So that tells you all the institutions are still staying in that position. Right here, for example, super high volume again as it continued higher. And then over the last 2 days, you could see low volume pullback. The AEMA is catching up. We have an inside day on Friday. This one looks ready and primed for a continuation move higher. So it's definitely one that I want to get a position on. UPST, another one that looks really good. We discussed this one briefly. Over 85 is going to be my breakout level for this one. I'm thinking it continues to move higher. So these would be like the 6 names that I'm really focusing on: Rivian, Roku, Affirm, Roblox, UPST. About 5 names. Obviously Tesla and SOUN as well. A few other stocks that look really good that I don't necessarily have on my focus list right away, but they might be ready within like the next 1 to 2 days. I think AI looks really good. So if you look at the weekly time frame, it's breaking out of a huge weekly base. It is stalling a little bit here at these highs, but on the daily time frame, it looks like it might be setting up for a move higher. So we're just looking for a breakout over 40.3. RKLB looks really good. This is a very strong sector in the aero defense sector. It's setting up right at the 21 EMA, right? So let me explain to you guys something that happens sometimes when a stock gets a little bit extended. So we always talk about how the strongest stocks in the market, they'll continue to use the the AEMA to make moves higher, right? So these are going to be the strongest moves in the market, right? So you can see this stock, for example, the moment it broke above the AEMA right here, it did not close below until all the way up here, right? So you had almost this is like a 300% move without closing below the AEMA. Well, actually right here it closed below, but it reclaimed like the next day without getting below the AEMA for 300%. Like that's absolutely crazy, right? So that's why the AEMA works so good. However, once a stock gets a little bit extended to the point where, again, stocks never go straight up, what will happen is they'll need additional buyers to come up and we'll need additional consolidation. So what will happen is the stock will pull back into the 21 day and then it will use that to set back up. So you can see RKLB is doing the exact thing that I just mentioned, right? So it pulled back into the 21 day, which is this red line right here, and then it moves higher. Now, sometimes if a stock is too extended to the point where it doesn't have enough buyers here with the 21 day coming up, sometimes it even comes down to the 50 day and then it needs maybe like a few months to consolidate. But that usually happens to the strongest stocks. So let me give you guys another great example. LMND, right? You can see this one's been using the ADMA almost like perfectly. It bounced right here, huge move. Bounce right here, huge move, right? Right here, it could not break out higher. So what it did, it broke below the ADMA, and then it just came down to the 21 day. Now you can see it's setting up nicely into that spot. So that happens sometimes when a stock is a little bit extended. These setups are also really, really explosive because not only do they have more consolidation than like setups like this, but the deeper you pull in, the more room you have to the highs, right? So now there's about like almost a $12 potential here on this breakout. So from this move right here to the highs, there's about $12 that the stock can move. So you have a lot of continuation potential for that setup. So these are still setups that I'm looking at. Some of them might not be ready yet. Like for example, RKLB and Lemonade, we might need a little bit more tightening because I don't have like a clear level to trade them against, but these setups still work really good. So look for these setups as well, especially on leading stocks, like stocks that have led really nicely. These are going to be great. So yeah, keep that in mind. RKLB, definitely a nice look. Stocks like Reddit that continue to hold the AEMA, we can continue to look for these setups to play out right at the AEMA. And the reason why I wouldn't have a stock like Reddit on my focus list is because this one had not the best volume patterns, right? So I usually don't like to see high sell volume off the highs. That usually tells me that maybe someone big is taking some profits. Right here, you could see the exact opposite, right? So you have high volume as it moves up, low volume as it consolidates, and then high volume as it moves up, low volume as it consolidates. But the moment I see some high volume on the sell-offs, I am a little bit cautious, but I'm still paying attention to the stock because it could just be nothing and it can continue to move higher. So I don't let that cloud my judgment. I'm still looking at price. That's still the most important thing. But I am a little bit weary of stocks that do look like that, but Reddit does look great for continuation. ARM is another one that looks really good. This one might be a little bit extended. I don't love the daily candle being a little bit of like a pin bar / shooting star type of look, but it is just now breaking out of this big daily base. So if it can maybe pull in a little bit, set up, that looks great for continuation. I think Meta is setting up really nicely potentially off the 8-day or to retest this breakout spot right here at $600. I'm definitely going to set my alerts on that. Crowd looks pretty good as well. This one's probably one of the strongest software names so far to hold up pretty nicely, especially on Friday. Net looks really good as well. Asan, I know a lot of you are watching this name. Not on the focus list yet because it is a little bit extended from the AEMA, but it has the exact continuation model that I look for. So you can see big volume here on earnings, low volume as we pulled in. Just does not have the AEMA back in it, or it's not close enough to that spot yet. So I'm just keeping an eye on it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to trade it. Just means that I don't have a clear level to trade it yet at. Riot Weekly looks absolutely phenomenal. This looks like it wants to break out over $14. Looks ready for a big move higher. SoFi, we talked about this one. Looks good as well. There's a few other stocks that I'm paying attention to that need more tightening. I'll go through them like super quick. We have Docu, Amazon, Marvel, AVGO, Ainit, Zillow, Google, Hims, Lemonade, and LRCX. So a few other stocks, but these I wouldn't really worry about too much. What I do is whenever I see the stock is ready to go, I'll start adding those into my focus list and like my side watch like as the week goes on. So I like to have some stocks like on the back burner like this, for example, and then kind of just see how they develop throughout the week and then add them back. But these are always going to be, the ones up here are always going to be my focus. And I don't want to get too disoriented with like stocks that aren't on my focus list. You always want to have conviction and have the most confidence in the stocks, in a few stocks, right? Because if you have too many stocks you're watching, it's going to be hard to catch every single name in the market. So always good to have a lot of conviction in the stocks you're watching. For me, my favorite names are going to be Affirm, Roblox, UPST, Rivian, and Roku. I think those 5 look the best going into early week. We might have a little bit of a change up in the flows going into like FOMC, so things might change up. But to me, those are the best looking setups. So yeah, that's going to be a quick recap of my exact plan. those are the 5 names that I'm definitely looking to trade. A few other stocks that look good. They might move in and out of my watch list depending on how they move and stuff like that. But yeah, we should have some pretty big moves going into next week. I'm also obviously watching crypto stocks with the way Bitcoin's moving, just kind of on my back burner. But yeah, that's pretty much going to recap it. As always, we're going to do a quick Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, any chart requests, anything that you guys are looking at, put that down right now and I'll get through those really quickly. Just make sure if someone already requested your stock, just don't put the same one, because that is going to make it a little bit harder for me to get through all of those. All right, I already see a few that you guys typed, so let's take a look. Hood looks really, really good to me. It looks like it's setting up for continuation higher right at the 21 day. So again, this is like one that was super strong, holding the 8 EMA, continued to make moves up, and then it got a little bit overextended. So you can see it tested the 21 day, got some buyers, and now it's setting back up. So very similar to like kind of what I said with LMND and Roblox, but it does look really nice. RGTI, this one looks really good as well. This is again another quantum computing name. If it could break the inside day high at 7.16, it does look like it's ready for continuation to the upside. CRM, this one's a little bit weaker. It's rejected to, it failed to hold the previous high here on the breakout at 360. So now when a stock fails to break out, it usually needs a little bit more time to set up. So what I usually kind of see the stock do is like set up some sort of like pennant or continuation, and then break out and be able to push higher. So whenever a failed breakout happens, I usually take the stock off my watch list and then just kind of see if it wants to set back up over the next few weeks. PSTG, this one looks really good as well. Right off the ADMA, you can see I had like this PEG setup. On the weekly time frame, it does look like it's setting up for a potential retest of the highs there. On the daily, if it can get through, I would say 65.5, that would kind of give it the push it needs to push up to $70. CCJ, this one put in a huge failed breakout here, so definitely not one that I would watch. It's down to the 50 EMA. It might bounce off the 50 EMA, but you can see it already kind of closed pretty ugly. I would watch to see what it does around the 50. If it doesn't hold the 50, it could come down all the way to the 100 and potentially the 200 EMA. So those would be like the next two levels to watch under. NVIDIA, so this one's surprisingly really, really weak. It's below all the moving averages. And if we have a weaker market this week, especially with FOMC coming up, this one could honestly be a nice short. If it holds here at 132, you could potentially take it for a dip buy. But if it's not able to hold 132, I think it might come down to like the 127 level. If you look at where the 100 EMA is, it's like at 130. So that could be potentially an area to come down to, and maybe the 200 EMA below if it does break that spot. Coin has a lot of consolidation. This one looks ready for a big move higher, in my opinion. I don't love the way it failed to break out here and then came back into range. But to me, that just means the stock wasn't really ready to go yet. If it can break over 340, that would be like confirmation to me that it's going to start moving. But it could get moving into like early this week with like the way Bitcoin and Master got the inclusion as well. So that could be a nice kind of like move off the back of Master. Where's the link to the watch list? It should be in the resources channel, but if you don't see it, I'm going to post it right now. So you can copy that right there. All right, let me get to the rest. MU, that one has earnings this week, but it does look really good, I would say. It is setting up potentially to reverse this big weekly trend, right? So it needs to break out of this trend line right here. If it can get out of this trend line, and I would say over 105, then it could absolutely fly this week. But obviously earnings are going to be very important for it. Where to find sector activity on TradingView and what time frame to watch on sectors? Use a daily time frame, but I mean, all you have to do is just scroll through these and just see how they move throughout the day. Do you watch option flow? Not really. We do have a notable flow trader in the Discord who posts a lot of flow. I do pay attention to the stuff that he posts, but I'm not really basing most of my stuff off of flow. I kind of just watch it to give me a little bit more conviction sometimes, maybe. But to me, price action is super important. How can you access the watch list? Yeah, we posted it a few times so you guys can see it. How am I tweeting while streaming? Just scheduling tweets, bro. You guys didn't know you could schedule tweets? SE. This one looks good too. If it could break over 118, this one could potentially move to the upside. Coin we already did, but MSTR, this one could really get moving. So to me, honestly, MSTR looked a little bit like capitulation here with this big candle. But if you go to the weekly time frame, it actually looks really solid. So I was seeing that this weekly here still closed out green. You could see really big weekly volume. And then the pullback was still on lower volume on the weekly. So the weekly does look like this one still might want to fly. Obviously, it did have the NASDAQ inclusion and stuff. So that could help out a lot. It might be a little bit sell the news on like Monday. A lot of people might take profits like right on the gap up. But I think over time, I mean, it's now in the NASDAQ and it's in the S&P, right? So obviously, if the market continues to go up, I think MSCR should continue to go up, especially with Bitcoin moving higher. HIMS, this one starting to look a little bit better here on the daily time frame. It did set up for a potential breakout here, but it never got through like this 35 level, and then you can see it pulled in a little bit on lower volume. I think now maybe it might be kind of ready to get moving. It's got this nice little wedge here. If it gets through like 30.5, it could pop back up to 35. Ideally, the big breakout's going to be like over 35, I would say. Yeah, this is always recorded. Thoughts on Palantir, another one that got the inclusion to the NAS. Overall, I don't love that candle here off the highs, but I mean, it did have news, so it could gap up. I would just really watch to see how the gap up gets handled tomorrow. If it does sell off, I would say this one's probably going to be maybe a little bit topish. But if it can get over this high right here at 80.75 and stay above, it's probably going to go to $100. So those would be like the two scenarios that I would say it could be something to watch on for that. Can you talk about moving average setup? Yeah, so put on indicators, use 3 EMAs by GAENIO. Take a screenshot of that for you. That's going to be the indicator that I use. And then go right here, 3 EMAs, and put 82150. Very simple. Mara, this one looks interesting. It's got like a tight kind of wedge happening here on the daily time frame, and the weekly still looks pretty good for a potential big breakout. I don't love the way that I rejected to break out right here, but if it can bounce nicely off the 8 EMA on the weekly, it could have a nice continuation look to the upside. ZS, this one looks yeah, it might be a little bit cooked. You can see 3 kind of rejections here at the high. It's not holding the previous breakout spot right here, which is not the greatest look. It is right off the 50 EMA, so if it could bounce there, that would be good. If it gets under the 50, it's probably going to come down and fill this gap. What time frame? You want to use the daily time frame on your setups. Start with the weekly and then go down to the daily. Shopify, this one's setting up pretty nicely here at this 116 level. If it can break over 116, it's probably going to test 120, 125. Yeah, so for Google, what you want to look for is exactly these continuation setups that I was talking about. So you can see we're still far away from the 8 EMA, so I wouldn't chase it up here. This is still considered a chase to me. What I would do is see if it can set up some sort of like continuation, like pattern into the 8 EMA. So if it can set up like a wedge here into the 8 EMA with decreasing volume, kind of like it's doing right now, that would be my my entry on it. Or if it can reclaim this level here at 191, that would be the 2 spots that I would look for potential entry on this. MU looks good to the upside in my opinion. Solana looks really good. I own some. I think it looks good to the upside. What's the best way to enter these setups and set stop losses? So let's say, for example, you're looking at, I don't know, let's say Roku, right? Let's say your entry is going to be over 84.23. The best way to enter this one is set that level first. So when you go on the smaller time frames, you could kind of see where that level is. So you can now see that that's going to be the level right here on the 5-minute time frame. Whenever the stock gets above that level and closes above on the 5-minute time frame. So you can see right here, for example, no close above, no close above. You're looking for the candle to close above the level on the 5-minute time frame. That's going to be your entry. And then like I would say 80 to 90% of the time where I set my stop loss is going to be low of day. So let's do a scenario really quickly. Let's say the stock opens like here, right? It pushes up, 5-minute close above the level right there. That's going to be your entry. Stop loss is going to be right below the low of day. If the low of day is like way down here, for example, that's not going to be a great place to use your stop loss because it's way too far away from the stock, right? So that's going to be too big of a loss. What you could do is set it like below the breakout level. So let's say, for example, the breakout level is like somewhere here. Just set it right below the breakout level, because if the stock fails to break out, it's probably going to move against you pretty quick, right? So failed breakouts happen very, very quick. But that's also why I love this strategy, because the breakouts happen quick and the failed breakouts happen quick. So you know to cut really quickly. If the stock isn't going in your direction right away, it's probably not going to work anyway. So it makes it a lot easier to just cut those once they don't go your way. But as long as the stock holds the breakout level, it's probably going to give you a really, really big move, and you have a really good risk reward on your entry. So 5-minute entries are going to be 5-minute for your entries is going to be the best. Wait for the candle to close above. You can use some confirmations like volume. That's going to obviously give you more conviction and stuff. But keep it simple, right? If the level is 84.3, if the stock breaks above 84.3, then just take the entry, stop at low of day, let the position ride. If you have a good setup, 90 to 80% of those are going to be winners, because that's the win rate of this strategy. Hopefully that helped out. Chart request for Dave. This one is looking really, really good. A super nice chart here. So you can see you had a nice high volume pop and then a low volume consolidation here. We're setting up a nice kind of pennant on the daily time frame. It looks like this level right here is very important at $95. If it can get over 95, I would say your target would be at 103 at that high right there. And then if it could break 103, it's probably going to continue to run higher. But super, super nice daily time frame, and also weekly time frame looks good. It has a lot of room to kind of come back up there because the weekly moved really quick to the downside. Microsoft, this one still looks like it's going to move up to 467 in my opinion. It needs to continue to hold this previous breakout high right here at 442. You could see a little bit of like an ugly candle here on Thursday. So that's the only reason why I would say it might take a little bit more time to set something up and then give you the move to the upside. So that would be the look on that one. Can you explain how low volume when reaching highs is good? So, I mean, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. I like to look for low volume as a consolidation, not really when the stock is moving into the highs. So as the stock pulls back like this, we want to see volume decrease, right? That's going to be what you're looking for. And then when the stock continues to move higher, that's when you want to see higher volume, especially if the stock has a super high volume. You want to see it close at the highs, because that means the buyers are super, super aggressive. So the reason why the entry for Roblox is 60.22 is because it's the inside day high, right? So a lot of times I'll use, if we have an inside day, so you can see this stock, this candle right here is clearly an inside day. It traded within the high and it traded within the low of the prior day's candle. So you can see it's within that range. I'll use the inside day high as trigger, because what that means is if you go down to the smaller time frame, you can see that this high right here is going to coincide with this weekly, hourly trend line, right? So if it breaks out above that level, you know it's going to probably break out and have enough momentum to break over the previous high. So yes, you could use over 61.05 as your entry, but over the inside day high, there's enough consolidation for that to be your pivot spot. However, both of those trigger entries are going to work. I usually like to use the inside day high if there's an inside day. That's exactly what I did on SOUN, right? So you could see on SOUN on Friday, this was an inside day right here. So you could see it traded below this high. It traded above this low right here. So it was an inside day, and I used the inside day high to trigger the entry. So once it broke that spot, that's when I took my entry on it. Dan, this one looks pretty solid. Nice move off the lows here. Right off the AEMA. Not personally like my favorite setup, I would say, but there could be something setting up here like on the daily time frame. On the weekly, it does look a little bit better in terms of getting a nice breakout here above the moving averages, but it might be a little slight extended on the weekly time frame. But overall, not a bad look on it. Crowd, please. This one looks like it's setting up for a continuation move to the upside, I would say. Over 370 is going to probably be your trigger, like above this high right here, above this high. And I think this one's probably going to move up to 396. Target on AVGO is 250. Starbucks, this one looks a little bit like a failed breakout. So you could see it broke out here and it wasn't able to hold the previous highs. So I don't really like to see that on stocks. If a stock moves really healthy, it's going to hold the previous highs. Once you get back in a range, it's probably going to chop a lot. So I'm expecting maybe some more consolidation here. It's below the moving averages as well on the daily time frame, so not the best look. It doesn't have to pull all the way back, but this would be a spot potentially if it does pull. But yeah, I could probably set up a little bit more on the daily time frame before making any big moves, just because it's kind of back in the range. Okay, that is DQSQ. Not seeing that. I don't know if are you just typing SQ? Maybe. Square looks a little bit weaker. I don't like how it's breaking below the previous highs there at $93. But on the weekly time frame, it's still in a big weekly breakout, right? So you're just looking for this level here, like $90 to hold. That could be a potential retest entry for us to take. The breakout level for UPSD is 85.1. DE, this one also looks a little bit like a failed breakout on the weekly time frame. You can see we broke out here over this 451 level, and then it kind of came back down into this range. Now, what you would want to see for something like this is a reclaim of that level before really being bullish. So if it can reclaim 451.5, then I would say this could be a really nice wedge to trade to the upside. Overall, I do like the way that it's setting up, though. It had a really big move here, and then it's been pulling back pretty controlled so far. So it does look really nice. CELH, this one looks like a potential bottom here on the daily time frame. On the weekly, it's still a little bit in a really big downtrend, so it's a bit early for that. But on the daily, it could continue to move higher. It does need to get back over 32.2. If it can do that, then it has room up to $50, I would say. That's going to be your next target. TTD, this one needs to hold above the previous highs here at 132.4. If it can hold, it can come back up to 142. You have a potential kind of like wedge setting up here as well. AI, this one looks solid as well. I think over 40 is going to be your level to trade it up to $45. Needs to break over that spot though. What indicators I use? Just moving averages. That's literally the only indicator I have. What is my YouTube? It's just gonna be my Twitter handle. The reason why the last video was 1 year ago is because all the content I make is exclusive to the premium. However, these weekly lives I'm gonna start posting on here, so you'll be able to see those. Can I explain my entry process? Yeah. So if you look at SOUN, trigger level is gonna be the inside day high, right, or the previous day's high, right there. So that's 14.3. If you go down to the 5-minute time frame, it broke above that spot, 5-minute close. This was my entry right here. This could have potentially been an even better entry right here on the retest. But I took it right when it closed above because of the volume that I saw. It was like huge volume as it was breaking out. So it looked to me like it was ready. But yeah, if you want to know the exact entries, I literally go through these. We do this on the live trading literally every single day. So you can see my exact process on the entries and everything like that. But super simple. It's just the previous day's high, the inside day high. That's going to be your trigger. 5-minute close above with volume. That is going to be your confirmation. Chewy. This one looks pretty solid on the daily time frame. It could be potentially setting up for a move higher. Retested the 50 EMA here. You could see an inside day printed on Friday as well. So if it can break over like 32.5, it has room back up to $36. Roblox, I would say, yeah, that one's full size. It looks really good. I use the 82150 EMAs. Dash, huge put volume. I don't really look at like options flow that much. I would say, I guess if it breaks the 21 day, it does maybe look good to the downside. Maybe it has some news or something. I'm not really sure on that. AMD, probably getting close to a bottom, but I wouldn't really go bottom fishing for this. It's a terrible stock. Whenever I see a company that just doesn't, or when a stock that doesn't stay above the moving averages, you probably don't want to trade it. So you can see this one's below all the weekly moving averages, but this level that I have marked out is going to be really, really big. So I might try to find some support around like 125, 122. If it doesn't hold this spot, it's probably coming back down to like $100, I would say. Master gapping up 6% overnight. I actually thought it would have been a lot more, to be honest. I'm sure you've been trading during bear markets and huge pullbacks. How is your performance during those times? So the good thing is everything's been documented. So you can go back and literally see my exact performance. You can see all my alerts for the past 4 years on the Google Doc that we have. Plus on Twitter, you can go and see how I traded the bear market. But overall, my performance was really good just because, again, the strategy that I use is good for both directions, especially because options are very lucrative. So you can trade both directions very quickly. But I'm also very, very picky and very good at choosing when to trade. So even if the markets are weak, there's still obviously going to be trades to take. But a lot of the times you can be pickier and just sit out when things aren't really looking the best, right? So it's up to you to choose which environments to trade. For me, I like to make it easy and like to make it simple. Trading is not a competition about who could trade the hardest markets. It's all about making things easy, right? The most profitable traders, they just trade the easiest times when they make money, and then they try to keep their profits whenever the market's a little bit harder to trade. It's not a competition of who could trade the hardest markets. You don't need to make money every single day. That is not how profitable trading looks like. If you study any single trader who's actually profitable with profitable track records over the past 100 years, I guarantee you all of them probably made money during bull markets because that is when the most money to make is. Obviously, there's going to be some outliers like Michael Burry with huge short bets, with obviously a lot of luck that has behind that as well. Not saying that was all luck, but obviously a lot of luck behind that. But all the easy money is to be made when things are moving to the upside. There's no shame in that. And I would say, again, don't let people force you to trading bad conditions. If the market's easy, make money when the market's easy. Who cares? You're making money, right? That's all that matters. Don't disrespect your money. At the end of the day, a lot of the money that you guys are putting into the markets, that I'm putting into the markets, is money that we worked hard for. So there's no reason to lose money by trying to see who has the best performance during bad markets, right? It's all about making money when it's easy, keeping it when it's bad. That's how, in my opinion, that's the best way to view it. How do I know when you take how do I know when to take a setup with a capitulation candle, high sell-off volume candle? Example, SoFi back in October 29, still continue to break out. So what you want to do is wait for the stock to break back above that candle. So for example, if your capitulation candle is, let's say, this one right here on master, if we get a break above the high at 542, that's going to be your confirmation that you could trade the stock again, right? Now obviously I wouldn't be that hard on the stock in terms of saying that it has to break out over that spot. For me, honestly, I would still be interested in master just based off the weekly and the daily, but that would be the best way to go about it, and being really safe. What's the white shadow and the volume mean? Good question. This is the volume moving average. So this tells me the average volume over the last 20 days. So anytime we're above the shadow here, that means we have higher than average volume. So that kind of helps me differentiate whether the volume is really low like it is here, or if the volume is really high like it is here. So you can see anything that's above that is higher volume. CRDO, that's a great looking chart. I'm really, really bullish on this one. Really, really strong. KMX, CarMax, wow, interesting. Super nice weekly chart on this one. It looks like it's going to break out of this big base here at $88. So that looks super, super solid. If we're looking for swings multi-day, what time frame would you look at for confirmation of move over entry points? If you're looking for I would say a month out move, I would use a daily time frame close above. But if you're looking for a few day move, 3 to 4 to 5 days, then 5-minute time frame confirmation is good enough to me on the daily time frame. On the smaller time frames. Snow, this one is pulling back a little bit more than I would like to see a leading name pull back. It might come all the way down to this gap here at 161. But it's still pretty strong after the breakout on earnings. So you want to see this one set back up. For now, there's not really any like setup on it in terms of like a constructive setup. But if it can like set up some sort of like wedge here and then kind of push back up, that would be the best way to go about it for this stock. Um, I already did Celsius, guys. I already went over Celsius. Lucid is showing increased volume and some price action, still speculative, but can it be bought for the next 6-month time frame? 6-month time frame is like you would need to see the weekly breaking out. This is a little bit too early for me. So for example, this one's still in a big weekly downtrend. What I like to see is stocks like Roblox, right? Roblox you can see is breaking out of a huge weekly base. This is how you know the stock is probably going to make like a U-shaped move, right? It needs to build out this base first and then break out, get above the moving averages. So this I would be confident in buying for 6 months. Lucid is a little bit too early. Lucid I would maybe look for like a smaller time frame move because it's still below all the moving averages. The announcement's gonna come out right after the live, so like right on the live. So just make sure you guys are staying. 10 more minutes probably. Won't be too much longer. How do you know when to enter? There's a gap up after an inside day. So you're looking for a retest after a gap up day. So you're never going to enter when a stock gaps up above your trigger level because that's not high. That's not high conviction, high probability. Unless it sets up some sort of like 5-minute continuation setup on like the smaller time frames, like the 5-minute, 15-minute. But on the gap up, there's nothing we could do to enter that. What we're looking for is a retest. So let's say, for example, Shopify was something that was actually a setup that I remember that gapped up above the inside day. So right here, for example, we had the inside day right here. We had the gap up. I would never just enter based off that because that would be kind of just guessing that it would go higher. So what you would want to do is wait for a potential retest. If you don't get the retest, you wait for a continuation setup, right? So something like this, for example, on the 5-minute time frame, or something like this, right? If you're looking to potentially take an entry on that. D-Dog. This one looks similar to Snow. It looks like you might have to pull in a little bit more. This is like a little bit of like a head and shoulders type of look. It's below the ADMA. Not the best looking chart. Also, you can see the volume on the pullback is super high. Whenever I see that again, that's a little bit sketchy to me. So big level here at 150, but it needs to maybe set back up. You can see how clean this breakout was, for example, right here. And how clean this breakout was here, right here was as well, right? But whenever the chart starts to become a little bit like dirtier, I guess, it doesn't look that good for continuation. What do I think SPY and QQQ go for this week? We already talked about SPY a little bit, SPY and Qs, but it really just depends on the Fed and stuff. Yeah, 821 EMAs. 86.75 would be the target. So if we hit 86.75, that's going to be your first trim. I personally don't use a Roth IRA. I'm sure that there is some tax benefits there, but the only way to really reduce like taxable earnings is to trade under an LLC and then just have write-offs. But there's no real way to like reduce your taxes any other way. Like you should just have to pay capital gains, unfortunately. TIGR, that's a great looking chart. So this one's setting up for like a huge move to the upside. Probably the only China stock that looks really good. You can see it's like basing really nicely right here. Weekly's breaking out. I think if this one gets over 7.6, it's gonna have a huge move to the upside. All right, guys. I'm not gonna do any more. Actually, I'm gonna do a few more chart requests. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of requests to go through. RCAT looks really good. This one has earnings coming up on Monday though. But super nice chart. I think it's like some sort of like drone company too, and I know the drone companies are going kind of crazy. Um, what is half size? 2.5% of my portfolio, but you could look at the Sean rules section, and then you could look at all the sizings that I take. What percentage of my account do you recommend per trade? I use about 5% per trade, but I only risk about 1% of my account in total total potential loss. I live in Florida, so I'm not evading taxes yet, but maybe soon. Um, why do I post entry and exit on stock price and not option price? What do you mean? That doesn't really make sense. Yeah, if size is not mentioned, it's full size. Um, no, I don't do any one-on-ones just because there's too many people that would be like asking for that. I wouldn't be able to get to everybody. How far expiration do you go for full size position? Usually I would need at least 3 weeks to go to full size. Yeah, if you go to the pin messages, actually, I'll share it. If you look at these, that's gonna be the list. Do you have any tips for Asia time zone traders? Swing trade is better, right? Given we can't monitor after around 11 a.m. UST time. Yeah, I would say swings is probably better. And just like kind of like have a just have your like conditional orders and stuff. If you have a smaller account, would you recommend closing position at first TP or hold until price starts to show selling? It just depends on how you set up your plan. So, for example, if your stop loss is going to be like 20%, you don't want to take first TP if it's only 20%. You need to like at least take a trim at like a 2RR or like at least a 1.5. So you could take it at like 30% or something like that. Tesla to 500. Honestly, yeah, I think so. I would say 90% of my trades personally are swing trades. Yeah, if SOUN breaks $18, it's definitely gonna go crazy. That's gonna be like my second TP. I try to trade it with at least a 2RR, but I would say like looking back at all my trades, I end up getting a 3RR on all my trades, which is honestly pretty crazy to think about. But because my like second and third TPs are like really high up and I trade breakouts, which usually give really big moves, I end up capturing about like a 3 RR on like every single one of my trades. Like that's my average per trade. Yeah, Coin does have a pretty similar setup to that Tesla look. Yeah, TPs are always going to be based on previous price levels. How long did it take me to find this continuation strategy? I'd say like over the last year I developed it. Like I really started to like see it all come together. But I've been using it for like the past 2 years for sure. But like really having it down to the T, I would say like the past year, um, it really all started to like click really hard for me. I always used to trade like breakouts, obviously, but looking for this exact setup and the one that's been super super profitable for me, it has taken me like a few years to like really find the setup that I really love to trade. How do I have so much trust that they'll get there? You just whenever you do something for a long time, you continue to kind of see what ends up happening. And everything in the stock market is super repeatable, right? Everything's like patterns are just things that have happened in the past. I mean, that's why they continue to form. So whenever I see the pattern set up and I know that over time, like historically, these things have played out, it gives you confidence that it's going to play out again because the you trust the setups that you have, right? So you know, for example, if this stock is breaking out right here, it's probably going to hit this high right here because there's a lot of room for it to come back up, right? So that's going to be like your main target up there. Do I ever take entries where it breaks over the previous high? This crud on daily, usually I enter and pull back at 8 AMA, like you missed it. First CPN would be purple. Is it too late to enter? Definitely not too late to enter. So if you remember, um, my WSM trade, so Williams Sonoma, this chart actually looks really identical to CRDO. I entered right here, so it wasn't even off the 8-day. So I entered at the actual breakout. But this is literally the exact same chart, like almost. It looks like identical. Where can we find your scanner filters? I mean, I could just show them real quick. It's literally just this. This is for a trading view. It's super simple. I sent you a flick. What level of experience does someone have to be to use it, Discord information and benefit from the information shared? Definitely not only for experienced traders. I would say honestly, it's good for beginners, intermediate people, and obviously experienced people. I would say the best way to utilize it is if you're already kind of intermediate and know a little bit about options, because obviously you want to have the foundation of options down already. But if you already have that down, like the technical analysis part of it, you don't have to be an expert at all. You can literally learn from the ground up. That's what we do here. We teach technical analysis from the ground up. I would obviously prefer everybody to know how to use options already, because that's something that takes a little bit of time to like understand. But technical analysis, we could teach you easily within like 2 to 3 weeks. After my first CP, are you automatically setting a stop loss at break even? Yeah, like I would say 90% of the time. NBIS, NVIDIA theme. This looks interesting. It's right off the 50 EMA here. If it can like break out of this spot right here, it looks good for continuation to the upside. I mainly swing trade like 90% of the time. Do I ever exercise? Never exercise my options. Like there's almost no reason to ever do that. How's NVIDIA set up? It looks like if it breaks 132, it's probably gonna move lower. It's right at this big spot though, so if it can hold 132, it does have room to the upside. Team, um, that one looks pretty solid. If it can break over 280, then it has room up to 287. All right. When is the boot camp starting? How do I sign up for it? All right. So honestly, I can't give too much details because my team is gonna freak out. But yeah, we're having something absolutely huge that I'm building for you guys. This is probably gonna be like the best opportunity you're gonna get like next year. Um, I can't say too much about it now, but if you want to save like a potential spot, make sure you get on this wait list. Um, but yeah, I can't say too much on it yet. I'll probably keep like updating you guys as we go and once we have more information, but it's gonna be something like absolutely life changing. We've been working on it for like the past 6 months. It's gonna be great. Um, Honestly, the next boot camp is probably gonna be in person in Miami. I feel like that'd be dope. But this one's just gonna be online. So yeah, because I don't think everyone's gonna be able to make it to Miami. But yeah, I would definitely get on that wait list because it is gonna be first come first serve. So for anyone who's stuck in with the stream, make sure to get on that. Give you guys a spot first. ASTS looks like it is setting up for a big move to the upside, but it's still in this really big kind of weekly base, so it might take some more time to like consolidate here. But if it can get out of like this $30 level, it can finally break out. But I think overall it'll probably just continue to consolidate a little bit here, and then finally start to like push out of this base. Waitlist is right here. If you didn't get it, I'm typing in chat. Yeah, it's a virtual boot camp, so it's everything's gonna be online, so anybody's able to participate in it. Yeah, everything will be recorded. As always, everything's recorded. Right now we don't have all the details, but again, if you guys if you get on the wait list, you'll get like everything first, like all the details and stuff, right away. But I'm telling you, this is gonna be like I don't want to overhype it, but it's gonna be probably like the craziest thing you've seen from like a trader in terms of the actual education that we're gonna be putting. Like my goal is to literally have every single person that joins instantly making 2 to 3K a month trading just the first 30 days. Yeah, Miami will be the next one, bro. How did I learn how to trade? Most of it was off of just like self-taught YouTube stuff. When I first started, there wasn't as much resources as everybody has now, to be honest. Um, I started about like 2018, 2019. There was obviously books and stuff, but like online resources, there wasn't too many. But yeah, YouTube, I studied Qual McGee. I studied Oliver Kell, and I studied Mark Viner Vinny and like William O'Neill. So those four traders, and then I kind of just adjusted that style into options because they're equity traders. But I just kind of took that style a little bit in terms of like the actual technical analysis and stuff, and just kind of made it my own. Took me 2 years to become profitable, but honestly, I probably could have had it down to like 6 months to a year. To be brutally honest, right now with like the age of information that we have, it should be a lot faster. Obviously, if you still haven't found success after a few years, not saying every single person's going to be super fast, but if you put the work in, there's so much information out there right now, that it should be. You just have to digest the right information, honestly. But yeah, if you do a lot of studying and stuff, and you make sure that you understand that a lot of it has to do with psychology, you can make it a lot easier for yourself. Yeah, I could probably. It probably does work good selling puts, to be honest. Um, yeah, I think Eva and Will like sell premium too. All right, guys, I'm probably gonna wrap it up in like the next 4 minutes. Any other questions? How long have I been profitable? 4 years now, 4.5 years probably. And did I take down big profits? So the first year of profitability, I made like, I would say like 10K. So it wasn't anything too huge, but it did show me obviously the potential. Then the year after that made about 100. The year after that 200, and then now I'm getting into like the six and the high 6 and 7 figures. Actually, this is gonna be my first 7 figure year. I don't have all the details yet on the bootcamp. It'll come out as we go, so just keep an eye on it. But make sure to sign up on it on the wait list. We can get a section with levels for the indices each week. So like what you wanna like have like SPY, Qs, IWM, and Dow. You want me to like put the levels in the morning? Yeah, we could do that, no problem. Let me write that down. Longs versus shorts. Yeah, definitely it definitely does. I mean, usually just the basic thing though is I would just, as long as we're above the moving averages, I usually just stay long. But I'll definitely put the important levels because like for example, this week we do have some pretty important levels like 600, 609. Um, if you got oh my god, my voice is starting to lose it. I need some water. Looking forward to the boot camp. Yeah, bro, it's gonna be huge. Do you think strategies that work in bull markets still work in bear markets? I mean, you could easily inverse the strategy, right? Because the whole idea is just you trade to the downside when markets are below the moving averages. So you could still catch moves like this. Um, but you have to back test it and then see what works, right? You have to go and see how different things work in different markets. Um, but a lot of people like stress too much about bear markets. Bear markets usually last typically 3 months, right? So I mean, if you can survive 3 months, you have about 3 to 4 years of a bull market to make money in. How long do I generally hold a swing trade? About probably a week. I would say confirmation for breakouts is always going to be best. And then once you get a little bit of like an idea of how the breakouts are moving and stuff, then you can start to front run trades. Love my trading style. Please don't change that for subs, bro. I've always I've always been super patient with my stuff. And that's again because I truly respect my money, right? I'm not going to be someone that's just going to take trades just because a lot of people are waiting for them. That's why my trades are the highest quality because I wait, I'm patient, and I wait for the exact setups that I teach. If you remember, there was nothing in the market that looked good on Friday and Thursday really that looked that good. But look at SOUN, look at Roku, and look at Rivian. These are all the exact setups I teach, right? Same kind of idea right off the ADMA. So those are the only setups I take, the ones that I teach. What time do you do the morning prep, big dog? I know you sent us the commentary and focus list, but what time do you get settled at your desk? About like 8:30. I like digest all the news for the day and start like writing it down for you guys. Dell. This one looks super, not super, but it looks a little bit weak. It's below the moving averages on the weekly time frame, and this weekly wedge could potentially be playing out to the downside. You can see some big sell volume here. So not the best look on it. Also gap down on earnings, so that's usually not a great look. Could I make a video on backtesting? Yeah, bro, I'll definitely put that down. How's the bootcamp different from the strategy you already have? It's not different. I'm going to be teaching the exact strategy that I use. It's not going to be a different strategy. The bootcamp is basically just going to be an accountability thing. So we're going to be taking traders and making them profitable within 30 days. And really working like one-on-one with people. Yeah, the announcement is about the bootcamp. But again, make sure if you didn't sign up for the waitlist, make sure to do that. What is a stop loss strategy on options? I like to use low of day. Piton. Ooh, this one looks pretty good. Didn't come up on my screen, but looks solid. You have a nice little kind of pennant here forming into the 21 day. Looks really good. How do you identify the setups? Do you use the 8 EMA bounces alert in TradingView? No, so I don't actually buy when we bounce off the 8 EMA. I just look to see if the setup is there, and then I kind of see how the setup forms. So for example, like SOUN, I already saw the setup, so I just put an alert on my trigger level. I usually like to wait for the actual breakout to happen first. Do we have live trading every morning? Yeah, every single morning. I live trade from Monday to Thursday, and then we have another analyst that live trades on Friday. Do you set stop loss at break even after the first CP is hit? Yeah, like 90% of the time. The indicator that I use is 3 EMAs by the author JENIO. Bootcamp will be starting in January. I'll have more info on the bootcamp, guys. They'll probably be in like the next few weeks. Right now, still kind of a little bit early, but I want to make sure that everybody who wants and is serious about it and wants to be a profitable trader can get their spot on it. BX, this one looks pretty solid. It's testing here into the 21 day. Maybe needs a little bit more time to set up in like a pennant here or something. But doesn't look too bad. ARM, we already went over that in the morning. Sorry, in the original stream. That one looks good. It may need a few more days to consolidate though. I only swing trade, no zero DTs. Piton just didn't come up on my screen, but yeah, I use a screener on TradingView. It's like the most simple screen you could use, and then you can go through these and see some stocks. And then I also just use a watch list of stocks that I like to trade, so like stuff like this. But everything is in the resources channel, so you can look for like, there's gonna be a whole section that says how to screen for stocks, stuff like that. So everything you're looking for is in there. My live trading is until like 11:30, 12. The indicator name, yeah, sure. It's 3 EMA. Should be that. CVS. This one looks pretty bad on the weekly time frame. It looks like it's gonna come back down to like $44, I would say. On the daily, it might be a little bit extended to the downside, but overall, it is breaking down. So I'm thinking it might set up something like that. How can it tell a stock needs more days? I guess it might just be from looking at like a bunch of stocks over the last like 6 years and just having the experience of just seeing like and knowing the patterns that repeat themselves. But I would say like the easiest way to know is like, for example, this stock has already moved like ARM. If you look from the low to the high, this stock has moved 14% without consolidating at all, right? And then look at how much consolidation we had here. So after you see that and you see a little bit of like a failed move here on the daily, you know it probably wants to tighten up a little bit more to be able to move higher. So it's just something you kind of learn from experience, but also just looking at how extended a stock is as well. Any deals for the monthly membership? Unfortunately, we're not gonna have any deals. The reason why is because we already have so many people in here, and you guys can see how much effort I put into answering questions and stuff. And I want to make sure that I get to everybody. So if we have too many people joining, that's going to make it like impossible for me to like focus on everyone that's already in. So I want to make sure that I'm able to answer every single question, and everybody gets the attention they deserve. But yeah. I mean, you don't know when the breakout day is going to be. So that's why we usually like to wait for the breakout to actually happen. But if you front run a trade, just take time on it, right? Because if you take like month out contracts, if you take like a 1 month out contract, 2 to 3 days of consolidation aren't going to be the biggest of deal, right? So your contracts are going to be fine. But if you take like weeklies or something, it's gonna be too long. I mean, sorry, that's gonna be too short of time. Those contracts are gonna get burnt. Yeah, you can master a couple of stocks. I don't really like that type of approach because that way you're locking yourself out of some stocks that have super crazy potential. Like, let's say, for example, if you traded only FANG stocks, you locked yourself out of trading something like MSTR, right? That had like an insane move over the past 2 weeks. So there's some stocks that that's why I like swing trading so much and the strategy that I use because you're able to catch stocks like this that are super strong in like super strong sectors. So it could work, but I personally like trading like the strongest stocks in the market, and that always changes. For Roku, it already broke out of the trend line. So if you look at the daily trend line on it, or sorry, if you go down to the hourly, right? So we take the trend line from the high, put it right here. It was breaking out of the trend line already. So that's why I already entered it. So on the hourly, it was breaking out. Could I please repeat the names I learned from? Yeah, I'll just type them. So we have Qual McGee, Oliver Kell, Mark Minervini, James O'Neill. Would I still get in Roku? Yeah, why not? As long as it's above the stop level, still a great setup. William or James O'Neill? Yeah, William O'Neill. I don't know why I said James O'Neill. I learned mainly from just watching like their stuff on YouTube. All right, everybody. I think that's gonna wrap it up for the night. We did like about an hour, 40-minute stream, pretty long. So yeah. As always, this is gonna be on YouTube, so check it out if you missed the